I clutch the handwritten vows against my chest as I step off the elevator onto the 32nd floor. The security guard recognized me, waving me through with a smile that made the corners of his eyes crinkle. "Big day coming up, Miss Cole," he'd said, and I'd nodded, unable to contain my own smile. 3 days, just 3 more days until I become Adrienne Lang. The vows took me 6 drafts to get right. Evan always teases me about my perfectionism. But some things deserve the effort. My heels click against the marble flooring as I navigate the familiar path to his corner office, a porcelain vase of roses balanced in my other hand. I want to surprise him, maybe steal him away for an early lunch where I can practice reading the words aloud before our rehearsal dinner tomorrow. Laughter drifts from behind his partially closed door. A woman's voice, light and familiar, followed by Evan's deeper tone. I pause, shifting the vase to my hip. He must be wrapping up a meeting. "You always know exactly what to say," the woman purrs, followed by the distinct clink of glasses. My fingers tighten around the vase handle as I nudge the door open with my hip. The scene before me doesn't register at first, like looking at a photograph of strangers, before recognizing your own house in the background. Evan stands by his desk, his tie loosened, his hands tangled in my sister's dark hair. Camille's back is to me, but I can see the smudge of her red lipstick on his mouth, the champagne bottle open on his desk with a note propped against it. "To our future. Our future." The vase slips from my fingers before I can process what I'm seeing. It shatters against the hardwood floor, water and roses exploding across imported Italian leather shoes, and the carpet Evan special ordered from some designer whose name he'd made sure to mention at least 3 times when it was installed. Camille turns, startled by the noise. When she sees me, her surprise melts into something else. Not shame, not embarrassment, but something smug and satisfied. She doesn't even bother straightening her skirt. "You weren't supposed to find out until after the honeymoon," she says, her voice so matter-of-fact it takes my breath away. "My sister. My only sister." Evan steps around her, straightening his tie as if we're concluding a business meeting. "Adrienne, this is unfortunate timing. Unfortunate timing. As if he'd double-booked lunch reservations. What are you doing?" The question sounds stupid the moment it leaves my lips. I know exactly what they're doing. What they've been doing. The champagne isn't new. The bottle is almost empty. "This is better for everyone, Addie," Evan says, using the nickname he knows I hate. "You're too conventional, too predictable." He glances at Camille, and something passes between them that makes my stomach roll. "We didn't want to hurt you." I stare at him. This man I've spent 3 years building a life with. The man who proposed at my parents' anniversary dinner, who helped me pick out honeymoon villas on the Amalfi Coast. $28,000, non-refundable. 220 guests flying in from across the country in less than 72 hours. A small, bitter laugh escapes me. "You didn't want to hurt me? Then why wait until 3 days before our wedding?" Camille steps forward, placing her hand on Evan's arm with casual possession. "Don't be dramatic, Addie. It's not like this is the first time." The first time. The implications hit me like a physical blow. How long? How many times have I been the fool? I think of all the late nights Evan claimed to be working, the business trips that stretched an extra day, the texts he'd shield from my view, all the signs I'd ignored because I trusted him, because I trusted her. "He pursued me, you know," Camille continues, twisting the knife. "Said he made a mistake, that it was always supposed to be me." My mind flashes back to last Christmas, to Camille's lingering hug with Evan under the mistletoe. To Mom laughing it off. "She's just being spirited, Adrienne. Don't be so uptight." To Dad's dismissive wave. "Your sister's always been affectionate." Just like they'd dismissed it when she'd borrowed my prom date senior year, when she'd applied for the same colleges, the same internships, when she'd moved to Seattle 6 months after I did, taking an apartment 3 blocks from mine. I realize now what I've always known but never admitted. Camille doesn't want things. She wants my things, and our parents have always let her take them. "I paid for your college," I whisper, the random thought bubbling up from nowhere. "I paid for your degree when Mom and Dad said they couldn't afford both of us." Evan shifts uncomfortably, but Camille just shrugs. "And look how well it turned out. I met Evan at that alumni mixer you were too busy to attend." Her smile is razor sharp. Ironic, isn't it? Something inside me cracks. "Please, Evan," I hear myself say, hating the weakness in my voice. We can work through this. Whatever's happening, we can fix it. I hold up the vows, the paper trembling in my hand. I wrote these for you. For us. Camille laughs, the sound like breaking glass. Oh, Addie, always trying to fix things. Always sacrificing to keep everyone happy. She plucks the paper from my fingers, skimming it with theatrical interest. How sweet. But Evan needs someone who challenges him. Someone exciting. The laughter, that cruel, dismissive laughter, something shifts inside me. Heat floods my body, burning away the shock, the hurt. In its place rises something unfamiliar, rage. I straighten my shoulders, feeling my spine align vertebra by vertebra. I snatch the vows from her hand, tearing them in half, then quarters. You deserve each other, I say, my voice low and steady. I look directly at Evan, whose expression has shifted from condescension to uncertainty. All those tech investors you've been courting through my connections? Don't count on those introductions anymore. I turn to leave, stepping over the shattered vase and ruined roses. Neither of them speaks as I walk to the door. I pause at the threshold, forcing myself not to look back. Enjoy your future, I say, the words tasting like ash. I'll be busy building mine. I walk out with my head high, past the curious stares of Evan's colleagues, past the security guard whose smile now holds confusion. It's only when the elevator doors close that I allow myself to lean against the wall, my knees finally giving way as the first sob tears from my throat. 3 days after the catastrophe, I stare at my laptop screen, my coffee forgotten and cold beside me. The email from my wedding planner sits open, stark and damning in its simplicity. Not her message, "Thought you should see this, Adrienne," but the forwarded email below it, from Camille. Dated 2 months before my wedding day. I'd like to discuss changing some of the arrangements, my sister had written. Evan and I have different ideas about the reception. Evan and I, 2 months before she was caught in his arms. My fingers hover over the keyboard, trembling slightly before I close the laptop. This wasn't impulse. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was calculated, planned. The doorbell rings. My bank manager stands on my doorstep, a manila folder tucked under his arm. "Miss Cole," he says, not quite meeting my eyes. "We found some irregularities in your accounts. Transfers you might want to review." The transfers appear in neat rows on the statements he spreads across my kitchen table. 5 of them over 8 months, redirected from my personal accounts to a business entity I recognize immediately, Lang Development Partners. Evan's company. These required dual authentication, I say, throat tight. I never authorized them. The manager shifts uncomfortably. The second authentication came from a device registered to your home network. Camille had stayed with me for 3 weeks last summer when her apartment was being renovated. 3 weeks with access to my computers, my passwords, my life. My phone rings before the manager leaves. Margaret Winters, CEO of Solstice Technologies, one of 3 potential investors for my startup. "Adrienne, I'm sorry, but we're withdrawing our interest," she says, her voice professional but strained. "We've heard some concerning things about your business practices." 2 more calls follow before sunset, 2 more investors pulling out, all citing concerns without specifics. Rachel calls just after 9, her voice hushed despite living alone. "I was at Bellini's today. Camille was there with some friends. She didn't see me." A pause. "Adrienne, she was bragging about taking everything from you. Said Evan had been using your connections for months to secure his funding." I thank her, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. Later, I stand in my bedroom doorway, staring at the garment bag, still hanging on my closet door. The dress I'd chosen after visiting 12 boutiques, altered to fit perfectly, $6,200 of hand-beaded lace and promises. My phone buzzes with my mother's ringtone. The 4th call today. "Adrienne, you need to stop making this difficult for everyone," she says without preamble. "The engagement party is next Saturday. Your father and I expect you to attend." "Attendance isn't possible, Mother. This is family," she insists, her voice cracking with practiced tears. "Camille made a mistake, but Evan makes her happy. You always recover from these things, Adrienne. You're the strong one." "A mistake," I repeat flatly. "They've been planning this for months. They stole money from me. They sabotaged my investors. That's ridiculous. Evan would never. Check the guest list for their engagement party, I interrupt. See how many of my business contacts they've invited. Silence stretches between us. Then, your absence will only make things worse. People are already talking. The Robertson-Hayes wedding is the same weekend. Everyone will notice if you're hiding. I'm not hiding, Mother. I'm rebuilding. Dramatic as always, she sighs. Camille says you've been spreading rumors in the business community. This isn't helping anyone, least of all yourself. After she hangs up, I move to my desk where my business plan lies open. The one Evan had called unrealistic and too ambitious for someone with your experience. His handwritten notes crowd the margins. Scale back, too aggressive. Consider something more traditional. I trace my fingers over the market analysis I'd spent months researching, the projections he'd dismissed, the strategy he'd belittled while using my connections to fund his own projects. The truth crashes over me with sudden, perfect clarity. They didn't just take my fiancé. They tried to take my future. Morning brings decision rather than doubt. I call my bank and liquidate the joint investment account before Evan remembers its existence. $68,000 becomes $6,000 after settling the non-refundable wedding costs my parents refused to help with. I forward the evidence of unauthorized transfers to a lawyer, then call Professor Jenkins, my graduate school mentor. His voice warms when he recognizes mine. Adrienne Cole, it's been too long. I need advice, not sympathy, I tell him, surprising myself with my directness. 3 hours later, I sign a 6-month lease on a tiny office space in a building with spotty heating and no elevator. The rent consumes nearly half my remaining savings, but it has a door that locks and windows that face east. It has possibility. Rachel insists I move in with her until I get back on my feet, the phrase making me sound like someone recovering from illness rather than betrayal. I accept only because my apartment lease expires in 2 weeks, and every penny now goes toward building what Evan tried to destroy. My wedding planner calls with unexpected news. I'm returning your deposit, she says firmly. Contract terms be damned. What they did was unconscionable. You can't afford that, I protest, knowing her small business operates on tight margins. I can't afford not to back someone like you, she counters. Besides, I've already booked another wedding for your date. The catering hall was surprisingly understanding when I explained the circumstances. 2 weeks of 16-hour days later, I secure my first client, a small tech firm needing market positioning work. They found me through Professor Jenkins rather than Evan's network. The contract barely covers my office rent, but it's mine, earned without connections or favors. My mother sends the family Christmas card without my name mentioned. My Christmas Eve consists of takeout containers and spreadsheets, while Instagram shows Camille and Evan kissing beneath the Eiffel Tower, her hand prominently displaying a diamond larger than the one he'd given me. I don't cry. Instead, I send a letter to my remaining prospective client, undercutting Evan's bid by 15%. By midnight, their signed contract arrives in my inbox. Not revenge. Survival. 9 years later, the cream-colored envelope arrives on a Tuesday, addressed in my mother's flowing script. No return address needed. I'd recognize that handwriting anywhere. I turn it over in my hands, the weight of expensive stationery oddly heavy for something so small. My assistant Melissa hovers in the doorway of my office. Another meeting request from Parker Logistics. And the quarterly reports need your signature before 5. I nod, slicing the envelope with a silver letter opener, a gift from Nathaniel on our first anniversary. Inside, an invitation on thick cardstock. The Cole family cordially invites you to celebrate Camille and Evan's 9th anniversary at the Ashbourne. Family should be together for milestones. My phone buzzes with a notification. I don't need to look to know what it is, more photos flooding my social feeds. Camille and Evan, Seattle's self-proclaimed power couple, toasting with champagne at some charity gala. Her diamond bracelet catching the light, his arm possessively around her waist. The same bracelet he once promised me. I set the invitation down and turn to the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office. 3 floors of prime downtown Seattle real estate, COLE strategies, emblazoned across the building directory. 60 employees who look to me for leadership. My phone rings. Mother. I let it go to voicemail. Adrienne, sweetheart. Her voice flows through the speaker moments later, honey sweet but laced with the familiar undercurrent of demand. Did you get our invitation? Family should be together for milestones. 9 years is special. A pause. Call me back, darling. It would mean so much if you'd set aside the past. Set aside the past, as if it were an old sweater I'd outgrown. The irony doesn't escape me. 9 years ago, I had nothing but a canceled honeymoon and $6,000 in savings. Now I can see Evan's company headquarters from my window, a smaller building 2 blocks east. The latest industry reports show Ridgepoint development on shaky ground, despite their aggressive social media campaign showcasing their mansion in Medina and Camille's growing jewelry collection. Miss Cole? Melissa again, this time with Rachel beside her. My oldest friend, now my head of operations, carries a tablet with our afternoon agenda. The board from Apex Meridian is here for the acquisition meeting, Rachel says, her eyes catching the invitation on my desk. She raises an eyebrow. Is that what I think it is? Family reunion, I say, tucking it into my desk drawer. Let's keep the board waiting exactly 3 minutes. Not enough to be rude, just enough to establish who's running this meeting. Rachel smiles. She's been with me since the beginning. Since that night she found me sitting on her doorstep with a suitcase and no place to go. The conference room buzzes with anticipation when I enter. 12 executives in tailored suits, and at the head of the table, Nathaniel Ward. His eyes find mine immediately steady, warm, knowing. 2 years ago, we'd met at an industry conference in Chicago. He'd approached me after my keynote speech, not with flattery but with questions that challenged my thinking. His company, Apex Meridian Holdings, was looking for strategic acquisitions in the Pacific Northwest. What had started as professional respect evolved into something I hadn't thought possible after Evan Trust. My phone rings again as the meeting adjourns. Mother. This time I answer. Adrienne, darling, did you get my message? I did. I keep my voice neutral as I gather my notes. The reservation is for 7. Camille specifically requested you be there. Her voice drops to that conspiratorial tone she's always used when pushing me toward something I don't want. Sweetheart, it would mean so much if you'd set aside the past. 9 years of this same conversation. 9 years of being expected to forgive without apology, to forget without acknowledgement. The past isn't what I've set aside, Mother, I say, my voice calm. It's what taught me boundaries. Silence. Then, what is that supposed to mean? It means I've built a life that works for me, one that doesn't require sacrificing my self-respect for family harmony. But darling, we're your family. I have to go, Mother. I'm in the middle of a merger. A merger? With whom? That little consulting firm of yours is merging? That little consulting firm. Always the dismissal, always the minimizing. She has no idea I'm now managing 3 floors of prime real estate with a team of 60. Goodbye, Mother. I'll consider the invitation. I end the call as Nathaniel approaches, his expression questioning. Everything all right? Before I can answer, Rachel rushes in, tablet in hand. Adrienne, we have a situation. The data team found something in the Ridgepoint financials during the acquisition review. Nathaniel straightens. Ridgepoint? Evan Lang's company? You know them? I ask, though I already suspect the answer. We've been reviewing potential acquisitions in their sector. His eyes narrow. There's a connection I should have mentioned sooner. Ridgepoint has been submitting bids against our subsidiaries, always just undercutting our numbers, almost as if they had inside information. Rachel nods grimly. That's not all. The team found $1.8 million in financial irregularities, offshore transfers dating back 3 years, hidden under subsidiary accounts. I feel a cold calm settle over me. I need to recuse myself from this investigation. Nathaniel raises an eyebrow. May I ask why? Because Evan Lang was my fiancé. 9 years ago, 3 days before our wedding, I found him with my sister. They're married now. Understanding dawns in his eyes, followed by something else, a strategic calculation I recognize from our most challenging negotiations. You received an invitation today, he says. Not a question. I nod. Are you going? I wasn't planning to. Rachel steps closer. But you should. Not for revenge. For closure. Nathaniel's expression shifts into the one that first attracted me to him, that perfect blend of strategic thinking and unwavering support. If you go, let them show their hand first. People who think they've already won often reveal more than they intend. That evening, I stand in our closet, pulling out and discarding outfits. Nothing that resembles anything I wore when I was with Evan. Nothing that suggests victim or supplicant. Finally, I select a charcoal suit from my own label, the one launched last year to industry acclaim. The cut is impeccable, the fabric luxurious without being ostentatious. I hold it against myself in the full-length mirror. I'm not who they think I am anymore, I whisper to my reflection. I glance at my wedding ring platinum with a single emerald, nothing like the gaudy diamond Evan had selected years ago. For a moment, I consider whether to wear it or leave it home. Save the revelation for the perfect moment. The ring stays on the bedside table. My phone buzzes with a text from our legal team. The termination notices are prepared. Evidence packets assembled. I make a final call to the security team positioned near the Ashbourne, confirming every detail with military precision. The restaurant valet takes my car as I arrive precisely 15 minutes late. Through the window, I can see them already seated, mother, father, Camille, and Evan at a table for 6. An empty chair waits for me. As I enter, every head turns. Mother half rises, her smile strained. Father nods awkwardly. Evan's face remains carefully neutral. But Camille wears a triumphant smirk as she takes in my solitary entrance. Poor Adrienne, her expression says. Still alone after all these years. My phone buzzes in my clutch. A text from Nathaniel. Team in position. ETA 10 minutes. I smile, a genuine smile that catches them off guard, and make my way toward the table. The maitre d' sweeps open the heavy oak door to the private dining room, and conversations pause mid-sentence. Miss Cole, he announces, unnecessary but effective. My mother rises first, her face a careful mask of welcome that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Adrienne, darling, we were beginning to worry. I smooth my hands down the burgundy sheath dress I chose specifically for tonight, not navy, never navy anymore, and move into the room with measured steps. Traffic, I offer, the lie small and inconsequential. In truth, I'd been parked outside for 20 minutes, rehearsing every possible scenario, every attack and counter. Uncle Robert approaches with genuine warmth, pulling me into a bear hug that smells of Old Spice and memories of fishing trips when I was 12. Look at you, he says, holding me at arm's length. Success agrees with you, kiddo. I return his smile with a real one, my first of the evening. It's good to see you too. Aunt Judith, Cousin Mark and his wife Sarah, my father's business partner Tom and his new trophy wife. I greet each with pleasant small talk, deflecting questions about my life with vague answers and redirected interest in theirs. The room is elegant, candlelight flickering across white tablecloths and crystal glasses, soft jazz playing from hidden speakers. I choose my seat strategically, facing the door, back against the wall, perfect sightline to the entire room. My father approaches, hesitation in his step. Adrienne, he stops short of touching me. You look well. Thank you. I meet his gaze without flinching. So do you. He opens his mouth to say more, but the door swings open again, and the temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. Camille makes her entrance with theatrical timing, Evan 2 steps behind her. Her emerald dress hugs every curve, diamonds glittering at her throat, likely purchased with funds that would soon be scrutinized by forensic accountants. Everyone. She throws her arms wide, voice pitched to Carrie. I'm so sorry we're late. The call with Tokyo ran long. I take a slow sip of water, watching as she works the room. Hugs for the aunts, handshakes with the uncles, air kisses for the cousins. She saves my mother for last, embracing her with exaggerated affection while Evan shakes hands with my father. Neither acknowledges my presence. By the time they finish their circuit, the only remaining seats are directly across from me and at the far end of the table. Camille's smile tightens almost imperceptibly as she realizes the seating arrangement has placed me center stage, rather than relegated to the margins. You came! She finally addresses me as waiters begin serving the first course. I told Evan you wouldn't. Single women hate anniversaries. Her smile is razor sharp, her voice honeyed with false concern. I return a smile that's genuine, not forced. Some celebrations are worth attending. Evan shifts in his seat, eyes narrowing slightly. Adrienne, how's that little data business of yours? Still operating out of that co-working space downtown? Beside me, Uncle Robert leans forward. Adrienne was just telling me about her company. Sounds impressive. Was she? My mother dabs her lips with her napkin. Adrienne has always been comfortable with less. I take another sip of water, focusing on the cool liquid sliding down my throat. I remember Nathaniel's advice. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Their words can't touch you unless you let them. The conversation flows around me, and I observe more than participate. Every few minutes, Camille launches another barb, each one designed to remind everyone at the table of my supposed solitary failure. Still in that tiny apartment, Addie? Whatever happened to that promotion you mentioned last Christmas? Don't you miss having someone to come home to? With each attack, I respond with calm brevity, watching her frustration grow. This isn't the script she prepared for. I'm not defensive. I'm not wounded. I'm not playing my assigned role of pitiful spinster. Between the main course and dessert, my mind drifts briefly to 2 years ago, to the business conference in Chicago, where I first met Nathaniel. We'd been seated together at a roundtable discussion about emerging markets. While others had dismissed my points, he'd leaned forward with genuine interest. That's an insightful perspective, he'd said afterward. Most people miss the connection between agricultural subsidies and tech infrastructure. 3 dinner meetings later, he'd confessed his attraction wasn't just to my mind, but to my independence. You don't need anyone, he'd said. That makes choosing someone all the more meaningful. Our wedding 6 months later had been quiet. Just us and 4 friends on a cliff overlooking the Pacific. No family drama, no production, no performance for others. Just 2 people who respected each other building something solid. Camille's voice yanks me back to the present. Still drowning in spreadsheets with that data job? Cole Strategies handles data analytics. Yes, I reply, cutting a perfect bite of salmon. Among other things. Evan leans forward, wine sloshing dangerously close to the rim of his glass. You know, business is booming at Ridgepoint. We just closed a deal with Meridian last week. His smirk says everything his words don't, that he's still using my old contacts, still trading on connections he stole. Modest regional success is nothing to sneeze at, I reply, watching his face flush. Everyone starts somewhere. Adrienne has always been cautious, my mother interjects, patting Evan's hand. Not everyone has your vision. I note the discomfort rippling through the extended family now. Uncle Robert frowns into his wineglass. Aunt Judith studies her plate with sudden interest. Even my father shifts uncomfortably, as the attacks become less subtle, more nakedly cruel. Camille rises suddenly, lifting her champagne flute. I'd like to propose a toast. She waits until all eyes turn to her, to finding what you truly deserve in life. Her eyes lock with mine, the challenge unmistakable. Evan raises his glass with a smirk, and I catch the meaningful glances they exchange. Several relatives shift uncomfortably at the obvious mockery. My phone vibrates in my clutch. I check it discreetly. Outside now. Camille continues, her voice dripping false sincerity. Some of us are fortunate enough to find real happiness, while others. The door to the private dining room swings open, and conversation halts. Nathaniel Ward stands in the doorway, 6 feet of tailored charcoal suit and quiet authority. His eyes scan the room once before finding mine. Sorry to interrupt, he says, voice carrying effortlessly. I'm looking for my wife. I stand, smoothing my dress as every head swivels toward me. You're right on time, I say, watching Camille's expression freeze mid-sentence. Nathaniel crosses to my side, his hand warm at the small of my back. I hope I'm not intruding on family time. Not at all. I make the introductions with deliberate casualness. Everyone, this is my husband, Nathaniel Ward, CEO of Apex Meridian Holdings. Nathaniel, this is my family. The silence is absolute. Evan's face drains of color as recognition dawns. Across the table, Camille's champagne glass hangs motionless halfway to her lips. Ward? Evan stumbles over the name. Of Apex Meridian? Nathaniel nods pleasantly. That's right. I believe our companies have been in discussions recently. In fact, we just finalized the acquisition of Ridgepoint Development this afternoon. He turns to me, the picture of a considerate husband. All the paperwork is complete, just as you requested, darling. Acquisition? Evan's voice rises half an octave. Camille sets her glass down hard enough that champagne sloshes onto the white tablecloth. You're married? My mother stares between us, her social script suddenly obsolete. We should discuss this privately. Evan attempts, business casual tone undermined by the slight tremor in his voice. There are some aspects of the deal that require... All aspects of the deal have been thoroughly reviewed, Nathaniel interrupts smoothly. The legal team was particularly interested in those offshore accounts. Evan's throat works visibly. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. I maintain eye contact, watching the first real flicker of fear replace the smugness he's worn all evening. But we can discuss the details when the lawyers arrive. They should be here momentarily. Camille stands abruptly, chair scraping against hardwood. This is ridiculous. Whatever game you're playing. It's not a game, Camille. I turn to face my sister directly. It's consequence. For the first time in my life, I watch my sister falter, uncertainty spreading across her face as she realizes she's not in control of this narrative. And for the first time in years, I feel truly free. I watch their rapid calculations, their desperate scramble to salvage social standing in front of the extended family. Uncle Robert looks between us with undisguised interest. Cousin Valerie has stopped pretending to check her phone. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding, Evan continues, his voice hardening. There are long-standing personal issues clouding business judgment here. He glances meaningfully at several family members. Family history shouldn't interfere with proper corporate procedures. Camille leans close, her perfume the same brand I wore on our engagement night washing over me. Don't embarrass this family, she whispers, her nails digging into my wrist. Whatever you think you're doing, stop it now. Mother steps between us, her society smile firmly in place. Whatever this is about, we can discuss it privately, darling. No need to air family matters in public. Evan's face hardens as he turns to Nathaniel. You should know I'll fight this acquisition with every resource at my disposal. My attorneys will be very interested in this obvious conflict of interest. I'm 7 weeks pregnant. Camille's announcement cuts through the tension like a thunderclap. Her hand moves protectively to her stomach as she steps closer to Evan. We're expecting a child. Our first. Her eyes meet mine, triumph shining through manufactured vulnerability. I know how important family is to you, Adrienne. For a heartbeat, my composure wavers. A child, an innocent who would be caught in this web of consequences. I feel Nathaniel's hand settle on my shoulder, warm and steady. I take a slow breath, letting the moment of uncertainty pass through me like a summer storm. Congratulations on your pregnancy, Camille. My voice remains calm, cutting through the tension with quiet authority. I reach for my phone, tapping twice our prearranged signal. The restaurant's double doors open. 2 attorneys enter, document portfolios tucked under their arms. Recognition dawns on Evan's face, followed quickly by fear. What is this? Mother hisses, but her question drowns in the rising murmurs around the table. Nathaniel steps forward. The acquisition of Ridgepoint Development closed at 2 o'clock this afternoon. His voice carries the perfect balance of professionalism and control. During due diligence, our legal team uncovered $1.8 million in hidden offshore transfers dating back 18 months. One attorney opens his portfolio, sliding documents across the table. Financial records, wire transfers, and forged approvals bearing your signature, Mr. Lang. During the investigation, I add, keeping my voice measured, I recused myself completely to avoid any appearance of conflict of interest. The evidence speaks for itself. Evan lunges for the documents, but it's too late. The second attorney distributes identical packets to key family members: Father, Uncle Robert, Aunt Sharon. Evidence compiled with methodical precision over months of investigation. These transfers, the attorney continues, pointing to highlighted dates, coincide perfectly with Mrs. Lang's purchases. She flips to another page. The Aspen vacation home, the yacht membership, the vintage car collection. This is absurd, Evan sputters, but his eyes dart frantically between the documents. These are fabricated. Camille stares at the timeline, her face draining of color as she recognizes dates, amounts, purchases. You said those were bonuses, she whispers to Evan. You said we earned them. This is revenge, she shouts suddenly, turning to me. You couldn't stand seeing us happy, so you manufactured this witch hunt. I shake my head once. No. The single word hangs in the air. It's consequence. Aunt Sharon gasps as she reaches a particular page. Uncle Robert mutters something that sounds like, "Good God," Around the table, the facade of family unity crumbles as the evidence unfolds in black and white. Father looks up from his packet, his eyes meeting mine for the first time all evening. "You did this to yourselves," he says quietly, addressing not me but Evan and Camille. "All these years," I thought. He shakes his head, leaving the thought unfinished. Evan slumps in his chair, defeat written in every line of his body. "The trust fund," he admits, looking at Camille with naked desperation. "It was supposed to solve everything. We needed the money after the Westlake project failed." Camille's makeup-perfect face crumples. "What trust fund?" Her voice rises. "What are you talking about?" "Your parents mentioned it at the engagement dinner. $2 million in a family trust." Evan's voice grows hollow. "But then we found out you couldn't access it until 40. We were already overextended." The third attorney sets a leather portfolio on the table, opening it to reveal glossy photographs and financial statements. Cole Strategies, founded by Adrienne Cole 9 years ago. 3 offices. 60 employees. He flips the page. Current valuation, $420 million. Built from $6,000 and a sublease office the size of a closet. Nathaniel adds quietly. "That's impossible," Camille whispers, staring at the photos. "You were struggling, living in that apartment, driving that old car." "I chose to reinvest in my company rather than my appearance," I answer simply. "A different kind of asset management." The lead attorney approaches Evan and Camille with a final document. "Your options are straightforward. Cooperate with the federal investigation and accept a structured settlement, or face criminal prosecution for securities fraud, embezzlement, and multiple violations of your non-compete agreement." Evan stares at the papers, his shoulders sagging. "How much would be left? After restitution?" "Approximately $250,000, the attorney answers. "The courts tend to be somewhat lenient with first-time offenders who cooperate fully." I reach into my blazer pocket and withdraw a business card, sliding it across the table to Camille. "Career Restart Program. They specialize in professionals rebuilding after setbacks." I meet her eyes directly. "They don't ask questions about why you need a fresh start." Her fingers close around the card automatically. "Family shouldn't mean protection from consequences," I tell her, my voice quiet enough that only those nearest can hear. "It should mean accountability." Mother approaches hesitantly, father following a step behind. For once, words seem to fail her. "Adrienne, we didn't know." "You never asked," I reply simply. Around us, the extended family watches in stunned silence. Cousin Valerie whispers something to her husband. Uncle Robert shakes his head slowly, decades of family dynamics shattering before his eyes. Camille collapses into her chair, the careful facade finally crumbling completely. Evan stands apart, his confident posture replaced by defeat, shoulders hunched as he confers quietly with the attorneys. Nathaniel touches my elbow. "The car is waiting." I nod, gathering my purse. We move toward the door together, leaving the ruins of champagne, toasts, and false celebrations behind us. Mother steps forward. "Adrienne, wait." Father catches her arm, stopping her. "Let her go, Helen." As the restaurant door closes behind us, I hear the whispers follow us out. "Did you know she was?" The evening air feels clean after the stifling atmosphere inside. Nathaniel opens the car door, and I slide in, feeling the soft leather seat embrace me as the door closes with a decisive click. 9 years of preparation, of building strength from betrayal, culminate in this moment of quiet triumph. Not the hot satisfaction of revenge, but the cool certainty of justice served through competence. The car pulls away from the curb, leaving behind a chapter of betrayal finally closed. The Seattle skyline stretches before me like a kingdom I've helped build. From my 40th floor office window, I can see the Space Needle piercing the autumn clouds, ferries dotting Elliott Bay. 1 year after the merger, an Apex Meridian Holdings has rewritten industry standards. My fingers trace the edge of my desk, solid walnut that anchors this space that's truly mine. Gone are the formal family portraits that once stared back accusingly. Instead, photos of people who actually support me line the credenza, Rachel laughing during our celebration dinner last month, my team at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for our new headquarters, Nathaniel looking at me with that quiet respect that still makes my heart skip. The envelope arrives with the afternoon mail. cream-colored cardstock, embossed with the family crest. Camille insisted on using for all correspondence. I don't need to open it to know what it contains. The annual Thanksgiving invitation. Last year, a similar envelope would have triggered hours of anxiety, debate, calls to my therapist. Today, I simply set it aside and continue reviewing quarterly projections. When Nathaniel comes in later with coffee, he notices it immediately. Thanksgiving summons? More like a test, I say, accepting the mug. One I don't need to study for anymore. He sits across from me, loosening his tie. Your call, always. That's what still amazes me, having a partner who doesn't push, who respects my boundaries without questioning them. I no longer need to explain why I won't sacrifice my well-being for family harmony. My worth doesn't depend on their validation. From $6,000 and a sublease to a national consultancy valued at $1.9 billion post-merger. From betrayed bride to the youngest female executive co-leading a major holdings group. The journey mapped in financial reports and magazine features covering my desk. Rachel called. Nathaniel says, "Dinner tomorrow?" Rachel, who offered her couch when I had nowhere else to go, who believed in me when even I struggled to. The foundation of my chosen family, built on authenticity rather than obligation. Perfect, I answer. The team hit their quarterly goals. Let's make it a celebration. Later, I review the monthly report from the career program. Camille's progress appears on page 3. 6 months sober, completed all coursework, opening a small interior design firm. I approve the investment check enough to help, not enough to rescue. Not reconciliation, but compassion without vulnerability. Breaking cycles matters more than punishing past wounds. When Nathaniel comes back for dinner plans, I show him the Thanksgiving invitation, finally opened. We'll attend briefly, I tell him. I've written the response already. He reads my handwritten note. We'll attend briefly. We have boundaries. Sure? He asks, without judgment. I'm not afraid to face them anymore, I say. And I'm not afraid to leave when it's time. That's the difference. As evening deepens, I gather my things. The city lights flicker on below, creating their own constellation against the early darkness. My hand rests briefly on the original business plan framed on my wall, the one Evan called unrealistic, the one that became the foundation for everything I built. I close the office door behind me, catching a glimpse of my wedding photo with Nathaniel on the corner of my desk. Simple, honest, surrounded by people who genuinely celebrated us. Success was never about revenge. It wasn't about money or titles or even justice, though that came too. Success was becoming someone my enemies could never imagine. I'd be someone who doesn't need their approval to know her worth, someone free,